Well, hello. Hello, all of you beautiful, wonderful, sensitive people. It is me, your favorite Whimsy, your favorite Oracle, here to deliver tonight's remote view. And hopefully, you're feeling good, you're staying safe, you're out of the way of Hurricane Helene. And hopefully, everybody that is in the path will be rescued and in safety soon. There's a lot going on in the news, and of course, we are here to cover it. I like to give people the news 3 weeks early if I can. And let's just go into it. The first thing I wanted to talk about is I wanted to talk about the fact that, as we had mentioned in the previous remotes, Donald Trump's statements will come back to bite him in the nether region regarding global warming. And I think that we really will see commercials, possibly from the Lincoln Project, possibly from the Harris campaign, making his statements against the backdrop of global warming, his flippant statements about more beach property. We're now starting to see people talking about that, and we're going to see more of that going forward. And it just emphasizes that he's a charlatan, that he's a con artist. He's selling $100,000 watches because he has to come up with a lot of money for legal fees. All of that is becoming increasingly apparent. When it's safe to do so, we'll see Biden and Harris in those areas that were hit. Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, parts of Virginia were hit, etc. And I think that we'll see a contrast between real compassion and real leadership that's acknowledging the problem and someone who is simply there for himself, Trump. And I think that this disaster will actually help the Democrats going forward. The other thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about, and we'll do some cards on it, has to do with the issue of Iran and the fact that we've talked about Iran having proxy armies in the Middle East, armies that go and do the bloody business of Iran, so that Iran does not have to get her hands dirty. She will simply send other people to go and do the fighting and the dying, whether it's the proxy army, Hamas, which fought a very bloody war in Gaza, using the civilian population as human shields. Unemployment completely destroyed Gaza, and blamed the Israelis, who were, a lot of people don't realize that they were being fired on missiles, and then using the people of Gaza as human shields, calling them martyrs. All of that was instigated by Iran, just like Hezbollah was a proxy army. Something like $700 million going into the coffers of Hezbollah to keep the army, to keep Hezbollah in Lebanon, which was supposed to be a predominantly Christian country. But alas, fundamentalists came in, Muslim fundamentalist, and so many Christians are feeling terrorized in their own homeland. So I wanted to take a look at that. Also, the fact that U.S. troops are moving towards the Middle East. Are we looking at potential war with Iran? Both Israel striking Iran, but possibly the United States. Now Iraq is beginning to buddy up with Iran, so there could be a partnership. It's interesting that when the U.S. pulled out of the Middle East, a lot of this stuff began to explode because the Middle East hates a vacuum. And if the U.S. troops are not going to be there, then terrorist cells and proxy armies funded by Iran, like Hezbollah and Hamas, will make mischief. This was the problem, of course, when Trump pulled U.S. troops out of Syria. Nasrallah was responsible for the deaths of hundreds of U.S. service people in Lebanon in the 1980s. He was enemy number one, terrorist as far as the Americans were concerned. And so the fact that he is gone and no longer the leader of Hezbollah is quite powerful. Many people feel that the Ayatollah Khamenei is no longer safe in Iran, that he himself could be targeted in the very near future. And it looks like Iran is on the verge of civil war. And this is because many people inside the Iranian Guard are helping Israel. Many in the Iranian Guard want to take over. They want the military to take over, and they want to diffuse and eliminate the powers of the Khamenei. And it's very likely that that could happen. We've talked about the fact that it's very possible that Ibrahim Raisi was taken out in a coup. It was made to look like an accident, and that this was probably also instigated by the Iranian Guard, possibly with the help of CIA and Israel. But ultimately, this revolution is being headed by the Iranians themselves. So how it feels to me when I go into this energy is that Iran is a bully. And because Iran is a bully, Iran would rather have somebody else do their dirty work. It's one thing to go and send somebody else to do the fighting and the dying. It's another thing for them to have to be on the front lines, being up against the Israelis and up against the Americans. I think that ultimately Iran is terrified of going to war with Israel. I don't think that they could handle it. I think that out of sight, out of mind, it's somebody else's problem. They'll create the fighting and the dying, but they don't want to be in the middle of it. And so I'd be very surprised if they tried to go up against the Israelis. I'd be very surprised if they, at this point, it would be very unwise for them to kick the hornet's nest. And of course, Israel has started a ground troops in to take out Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, and the Lebanese army is withdrawing from the area, which is probably a good idea because they would love to get rid of Hezbollah, which is basically occupying their country. All right, so we're going to go ahead. We'll do the empath prayer. We'll take a look at that. And the other thing that came up had to do with reform of Fox News. People have asked me a little bit about Fox News. The fact that Fox News is actually on in military bases, which is really morally and ethically reprehensible because it's not even a real news channel, and has in the past promoted a lot of Russian propaganda. And so it's bizarre to me that it would be even allowed on U.S. bases. And it'll be interesting to see if Fox is going to even be allowed on U.S. bases in the future, given their horrible track record and the way that they have minimized and trivialized January 6th. It just seems insane to me that that would be the news channel that's on in U.S. bases. So we're going to go ahead, we'll do the empath prayer, and we'll take a look at both of those things. Thanks for joining me. If you could like, subscribe, and share, that would be wonderful. Think about memberships. Those are all great ways that you can support this channel. Okay, let's do it. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys, to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together collectively we say, Amen. First thing is I want to check and see about U.S. troops headed to the Middle East. And I want to see if there's going to be a conflict or if we're going to be seeing war between the U.S. and Hezbollah, Iraq, or directly with Iran. I also think that the Houthi could be taken out relatively easily. Yemen is a poor country. The children really are starving in Yemen, and so it's very unfortunate to see they're putting their money towards bombing Israel, a country that has nothing to do with them, rather than taking care of the problems that exist in their own homeland. But let's take a look. Will the U.S. troops will we see conflict between Syria, Iran, Iraq, and the United States? It's interesting. When I go into the energy of Syria and Assad, I have this feeling that I am more sophisticated than the Arabs, that I'm not really an Arab, that I'm not a Muslim, that I'm not part of this. I miss my time in Britain. Assad, the head of Syria, spent time in Britain. I think he became an optometrist in Britain, if I'm not mistaken. This is a guy who sees himself as westernized and sophisticated, and he may long for or miss his former relationship with the West. For that reason, I don't know if he really wants to take on war with Israel and the United States so much as he would like a way in to negotiating some kind of future relationship with the United States. In terms of the military, I feel like the United States and Israel have a strong alliance, and we're seeing that backed up. We have the war king and the military. So the war king, I would think, would be Netanyahu because they're now in war. Also, the King of Wands, as I've talked about in the past, is a territory card. He goes and he fights and he takes over the territory. There are Hezbollah tunnels. They were digging tunnels, invading northern Israel via southern Lebanon. And so you have this aggressive pushback from Israel. And then you also have this other military card, the King of Swords. That feels to me like a strong alliance. And remember, there were many generals that did not approve or feel good about the U.S. pulling themselves out of these areas. Maybe we did it for financial reasons. Maybe Trump did it because he was helping his pal Putin with his trade routes. Of course, Putin has allies in the Middle East, Syria, Iran, and helping them and their trade routes. The best thing to do would be to simply withdraw U.S. troops, which Trump was able to do that for them, but unfortunately it meant putting Israel at risk. And so again, that's, as I've mentioned in the past, this is one of the reasons why many Israelis are blaming Donald Trump for the current problem, not Barack Obama and not Biden. It was actually Trump that left Israel to the wolves, basically. But we see this military, so the military presence is there. Let's see what else we find out. And the first house is the King of Cups, which is Joe Biden, and that's the peacemaker. Nobody wants war. Nobody wants to go to war. People want to create a peace treaty, and if they can get a peace treaty, or if they can get a new Iran deal, that would be great. But King of Cups is the peacemaker. He's the bridge over troubled water. It's a water sign male, so I'm assuming it's Joe Biden. And then the crossing card over him is refusing an offer or saying no to something. This leads me to think that Biden is going to be more a hawk than a dove. More a hawk than a dove. This could be the perfect time to take out Iranian leadership because Iran is not set up to fight. They'd rather have other people fight their wars. And while it may sound scary going to war with Iran, it's questionable whether or not that would actually happen, given that they have not really had a history of fighting Israel directly, but via proxy armies. What is above him is grief. So there's a real grief here about the situation, grief about the innocent people that have died, and at the same time, not willing to negotiate a situation that could potentially just prolong the war, right? So if they don't do something now, if the military doesn't do something now, the situation would simply escalate, or they would have time to reboot and start all over again with new leadership. And so for that reason, we're seeing this Four of Cups coming in, perhaps, where he's not willing to negotiate at this time. Grief and a feeling that things are coming to an end. This could be the end of the former government of Iran. You can see also Biden is really worried about this situation. He's said that he's very, very worried about this situation more than anything else. He has a 9 of Swords, not sleeping at night, grieving, wants the situation to end, but at the same time refusing to negotiate a situation that would allow it to continue. This is the perfect time for the Iranian Guard. If there's going to be a military coup like what happened in Egypt, now would be the time potentially for it to happen. Not to have Israel bomb Iran, but to create a situation where those members of the Iranian Guard that want to see an end of the Ayatollah could come in and do something. Where we are at right now, 9 of Pentacles, leads me to think that we are well stocked. We are well stocked. We are confident. We are well stocked. We have the military wherewithal. We don't want our military to be weak. We look at what happened in Russia, where they ripped off and stole money from their own military, gave it to private companies, private contractors, and that was one of the things that ultimately bankrupted Russia. They literally were giving billions to Prigozhin and other private military, other private companies, and that's one of the reasons why their own military was in such bad shape. But we can see here this confidence card and this financial confidence, which leads me to feel that the U.S. government's military is still strong, and the opposition, death, and transformation, again, would kind of meet with my theory that we could be seeing peace with Iran and a transition happening in Iran. The hopes and fears at this time, 6 of Pentacles, getting need to the needy, and knowing who to help, how to help. I see the area actually coming back. This is a great card for the environment also. 7 of Pentacles is about getting wealth, returning back to the area. I know when we talk about the Abraham Accords, when we talk about the Middle East working together to create a peace military, a peace group in Gaza as part of the rebuild, this is something that will probably happen. That means that troops coming in from United Arab Emirates and possibly Egypt and Saudi Arabia as well, and where Israel can pull back, and then we can have a rebuild that's based on keeping Iran out of the area and finally giving people peace in the area, because this is quite auspicious. It has to do with investing in, this is mercy, compassion, and also getting something positive coming back. If you look at these cards, these are not war cards. These are cards that would denote compassion, caring for others, and this is a card that has to do with financial security in the area. The situation will change. In terms of the U.S., we have strong leadership, strong confidence, and the opposition. With a death and a wheel of fortune, I would say that we are really seeing the end of Iran. They simply do not want to go to war with the West, and if they did, they would be toppled. The hopes and fears, people, experts, masters, working on some kind of deal that will be helpful to the people. And over the economics, an issue of poverty. So helping those people whose lives have been decimated by the current situation. I just don't see this. I think we could see the end of the conflict in the sense that I don't know if Iran will be able to continue to fund Hezbollah anymore, because they fear they're not stable enough. I just want to look quickly at Iran. I'll do 4 cards because there's a couple things I want to look at today. I want to look at 4 cards for the future of Iran, but I think it's the end of what was, and I think they're very close to seeing the end of the leadership that took over after the 77, 79, from 77 to 79, when the revolution happened. And this is saying that strong leadership will come in to protect the people. and that a new prosperity will come to Iran. It will go back to the great days of Persia. You can see here the King of Wands, which could be the war king coming in. I get this impression that it could be new leadership coming in for Iran, and for that reason, it could be signified, the new leader could be signified as the King of Wands. This could be a general who very aggressively takes control of the situation. And then you have the happiness of the people, Ten of Cups, Temperance, and then the Ace of Cups, which is also auspicious. So it's indicating that some strong leadership. It could be because the new president is a moderate who wants to open up relationships with the West. And if they get rid of Khomeini and the religious right, that becomes a new possibility. Also, there's something here about trials and people possibly being charged or arrested by the new government in Iran. And I'll show you that. It's as if the people themselves want this to happen. This can be also a military action because the Knight of Wands is moving in, and again, territory happening within Iran itself, and then justice for the people. So the people could be testifying and demanding justice. They want their captors charged. They want their captors to be held accountable. And the wish card comes in. Great work comes ahead for Iran, but also the Ace of Cups comes for Iran. It's very auspicious. A lot of hard work ahead for Iran, but I think that we're going to see a successful revolution. For that reason, I'm going to predict that Hezbollah will go bankrupted. And I think that's because they'll no longer receive aid from Iran, and Iran will no longer be able to maintain Hezbollah. And the West and the Middle East could be working together to shut off weapons supply and financial aid to Hezbollah. And at that point, we could see, and probably will see, an end of Hezbollah. I just want to now check on Israel going into Lebanon and how that will go. Israel in Lebanon. Definitely there's fighting, and it's very intense. And the Hezbollah fighters, they've lost their leadership, and they're kind of feeling lost, like it's hand-to-hand combat, and they're feeling that they were basically abandoned by their leadership. So leadership either died or left, and the people that spurned it on, told them to go for it, the Iranians have cut ties, are cutting financial support, and then they are left in the middle of the swamp fighting as they are dismantled. And it's their karma to you can see them leaving. You can see here the fighting. They've been abandoned by Iran. Their leadership is in disarray. And now we have this crazy, chaotic fighting happening, but there's nobody there to lead the charge. It's fated. The Wheel of Fortune comes. Also, Eight of Cups. They will leave. They will have an opportunity to leave Lebanon. They could even leave some of their weapons behind. The Sword of Truth. Archangel Michael is with them. Michael takes the sword and fights the devil and wins. And so again, that's quite auspicious. Yes, and we can see the death and the end of the fighting. The people of Lebanon want peace. The biggest challenge to peace this will end relatively soon. It could end within 30 days. The biggest problem to the Middle East, believe it or not, is the fact that you have arms dealers. You have people that make money getting people to kill each other, selling arms. And so what are they going to do when they have nobody to sell arms to? Selling arms is big money. And if you have to close down somebody's business as an arms dealer, that's going to create conflict, because the arms dealers, the lobbyists who are trying to get arms contracts to sell their weapons to various different countries, could have a problem because they don't have anybody to sell to. And that's the biggest problem to peace, is so many people are hawkish because they make money off of war. The last thing I wanted to check is the future of Fox News. As I had said in previous remotes, they're becoming more independent and they're bringing on more diversity in terms of their roundtable. You're seeing more Democrats, more real debates taking place, and it's making some of the commentators on Fox look absolutely ridiculous when real intellectuals show up and begin to have debates, whether it's Buttigieg or anyone else who comes in as an intellectual and begins to argue on Fox News. So we could be seeing it move more towards independence and moving away from just being a conservative channel. But let's take a look at the future of Fox News and whether or not they're going to continue to put Fox News out on the army bases, military bases, etc., which I think is crazy. I don't even know if that should be legally allowed, to be honest with you. The future of Fox News and its relationship with U.S. bases. It's a business contract. It's something like they give free access. It's almost like free access or offering to give something, but you can see a conflict is brewing. So it's a business relationship, but there's a conflict brewing. We're headed towards the Ten of Cups, hopes and fears, and the final outcome is Knight of Wands, which is a territory card. The fact that Lovers is moving in over the business of Fox, the fact that Chariot is moving in, which is moving on, leads me to suspect, moving in from the fighting, and then Queen of Swords is moving in, leads me to think that they will either be bringing in diverse voices where it's not just going, sorry, my cat's toy, where it's not just going to be one channel, but they're going to allow multiple channels. I don't know if that's necessarily a good idea. They used to have U.S. forces radio and TV and not have fake news on, but you can see moving on and a conflict also over the business. There's a lover, so they're trying to reach out or create more diversity, partnerships over Two of Cups. Queen of Swords, she puts the past behind her. She has an aspect to her which is stoic and justice. The fact that it's associated with a Knight of Wands, which could be a movement, all of that leads me to think that they could and probably will be moving away from Fox News, and that Fox News will be attempting to modify its message so that it doesn't lose its viewership. All right, thank you so much for watching this video. If you're trying to get in for a reading with me, please check the information below. You can book me through Booksy. It's really easy to do. You just book and then I call you at the appointed time. Remember, I am in Portland, Oregon, so if you're on the East Coast, you've got to add 3 hours. All right. Remember, be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.